There's a moment in every man's life when it hits, and not with noise, but with silence. A silence that feels heavier than words. He sits in a room that once felt full, now feels hollow. He looks at his phone, and no one's calling. He stares at the mirror, and barely recognizes the man staring back. It's not that life suddenly became cruel. It's not that everything fell apart all at once. It's that the truth, the one he kept pushing aside, burying under busyness, drowning in distraction, finally caught up. The truth about the pain he never dealt with. The woman he took for granted. The dreams he kept delaying. The potential he kept talking about but never lived. The boundaries he never set. The man he always said he'd become, but didn't. And in that moment, there's no more pretending, no more blaming, no more noise, just reality. Raw, honest, unforgiving. Most men don't get here until it's too late, until the relationship is over, until they've lost themselves in chasing people who never cared, until their peace is shattered by years of saying yes when they should have said no, until life forces them to sit still and finally listen. But you're here now, you're still breathing, still able to shift, still capable of changing the path you're on. These next 7 lessons, they're not light, they're not easy, they might sting, they might make you uncomfortable. But that's the point, because real growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from confrontation, the kind where you face yourself. Not the version of you that smiles for others, not the version you present online, but the one you meet in the mirror when no one's watching. This isn't about blaming your past. It's not about being angry at what went wrong. It's about getting honest with yourself, for the first time in a long time. Because before you can build the man you were meant to be, you have to bury the one you've been pretending to be. So take a breath, open your mind, drop the defenses, and let these lessons do what they're meant to do, not to shame you, not to break you, but to wake you up. Let's begin. 1. Stop proving yourself to people who don't even care. You've spent so much of your life trying to be enough for everyone, trying to be the man who gets noticed, the one who gets the praise, the one who finally hears, "I'm proud of you," from people who probably never even looked that closely in the first place. You've smiled through exhaustion. You've said yes when your soul was screaming no. You've bent yourself in 100 directions, hoping to fit into places and hearts that were never built to hold you. You've dressed a certain way, talked a certain way, acted a certain way, not for you, but for them. But here's the truth, most men learn too late. Most people aren't watching to understand you. They're watching to judge you, not with curiosity, with comparison, with envy, with criticism that often has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. You try to prove you've changed, and they keep treating you like you haven't. You try to be kind, and they call it weakness. You try to grow, and they accuse you of acting better than them. Why? Because your growth shines a light on their stagnation, and rather than grow with you, they choose to dim you. And if you're not careful, you'll keep shrinking yourself just to make other people feel comfortable in your presence. You'll keep giving away pieces of your power just to be liked. You'll keep sacrificing your peace for people who wouldn't lose a minute of sleep if you disappeared tomorrow. Let that sink in. You're breaking yourself to be accepted by people who don't even truly care about you. A Stoic man doesn't live for applause. He lives with clarity. He doesn't chase validation. He cultivates value. He doesn't measure his worth by how many claps he gets, but by how many times he shows up when no one is clapping at all. Because the man who needs approval will always be controlled by it. He will always be one insult away from collapsing, one rejection away from losing himself, one silent room away from spiraling into doubt. But the man who builds self-respect, he becomes unshakable. His confidence isn't loud, it's rooted. He can walk into a room and not need to be the most liked because he already knows who he is. He doesn't dress to impress, he dresses to reflect his inner discipline. He doesn't seek praise, he earns peace, and that peace is something no one can take from him. The day you stop trying to convince people you're worthy is the day you start living like you already are. Stop performing. Stop chasing applause from people who don't even clap for themselves. You don't need the crowd. You need clarity. You don't need their approval. You need your own respect. Because once you own that, you stop moving like a man who's trying to be seen and start moving like a man who can't be ignored. 2. You can love her deeply and still let her go. No one ever teaches you this part. They teach you how to chase love, how to win her over, how to hold on. But no one teaches you the strength it takes to let go of someone you still love, not because the love died, but because you did, slowly, quietly, while trying to keep something alive that was draining the life out of you. You can love her deeply. You can think about her every day. You can remember how she laughed, how she made you feel seen, how she felt like home, and still understand she is not your peace. Love is not always peace. Love can be chaotic. Love can be imbalanced. Love can be one-sided. And sometimes the very person you give your heart to is the same person who keeps wounding it. But because we're taught that love is the most important thing, we start to believe it should be unconditional, no matter the cost. So you stay. You try harder. You explain more. You lower your standards. You silence your needs. You convince yourself that if I just love harder, it'll work. But here's the truth that most men don't learn until they've lost themselves. Love is not enough when it costs you your mental health. Love is not enough when it steals your purpose. Love is not enough when it requires you to abandon yourself just to be accepted. You don't walk away because you stopped loving her. You walk away because you started loving yourself. And that shift is painful. It's confusing. It'll make you question whether you're giving up too soon, whether you're failing, whether you're weak. But letting go is not weakness. Letting go is not quitting. Letting go is what a man does when he finally sees that staying means self-betrayal. Stoicism doesn't teach you to stop feeling. It teaches you to stop clinging to feelings that keep you from peace. And sometimes the woman you love is not your enemy. She's not toxic. She's just not aligned with the man you're becoming. She's not helping you grow. She's keeping you stuck in cycles that feel comfortable, familiar, but ultimately destructive. You can forgive her. You can honor the love. You can smile at the memories and still walk away. Because if someone makes you question your worth, if someone makes you shrink yourself just to keep the connection alive, if someone makes you pour and pour and pour while they barely show up with a cup, that is not love. That is survival. And a man who wants peace doesn't settle for survival. He doesn't keep bleeding for someone who keeps handing him the knife. He doesn't stay in emotional chaos just because they've been through a lot. He stops making excuses for the person who doesn't make effort for him. You can love her. You can want her. But if having her means losing you, it's not worth it. Because the right love will never ask you to choose between your heart and your healing. The right love will hold you without hurting you. It will grow with you, not against you. So if you're holding on to someone who no longer sees you, who no longer adds to you, who no longer fights with you but now fights against you, let her go. Not because you don't care, but because you finally do. You can love her with everything you've got and still walk away with everything you need. Your dignity, your peace, your self-respect. That is real strength. That is real growth. That is what it means to rise. 3. If you keep avoiding pain, you'll never grow. You tell yourself you're fine, that it's not that deep, that time will heal it. But deep down, you know, you're not fine. You're just busy enough to avoid thinking about it. That heartbreak you never really processed, that betrayal you shrugged off, that disappointment you buried and never spoke about. It's still in you, and it's not going away just because you act like it never happened. You keep moving, you keep grinding, you keep your days packed with noise, with tasks, with stimulation, anything that keeps you from sitting still. Because the moment you stop, the silence starts speaking, and in that silence is everything you've been trying to escape. You scroll endlessly through your phone, not because you're entertained, but because you're afraid of what might rise up if you sit with your thoughts. You date someone new, not because you're ready, but because you're trying to forget the last person. You stay in the gym for hours, not just to build your body, but because it's the only place where the pain doesn't scream quite as loud. You pretend you're healed. You laugh in front of people. You give good advice. You act like you've moved on. But when the doors close and you're alone, you feel that ache in your chest, that heaviness in your mind, that part of you that's still bleeding, even if no one sees it. That's what unprocessed pain does. It doesn't leave. It hides. And while it's hidden, it silently controls your choices. It affects how you trust, how you love, how you see yourself. You push away people who care. You chase people who don't. You settle for less because a part of you doesn't believe you deserve more. You lash out, shut down, or isolate yourself and wonder why you feel so disconnected. But the truth is, it's not life doing this to you. It's the pain you refuse to face. The world tells men to stay strong, to hold it in, to man up and move on. But real strength isn't pretending you don't feel. It's having the courage to sit with what hurts and not run from it. Pain has a message. It's telling you something about who you are, about where you're stuck, about what needs healing, not hiding. It's not trying to break you. It's trying to open your eyes, to wake you up, to bring you back to yourself. When you stop running and finally sit in that discomfort, without distraction, without pretending, it changes you. It softens the hard places. It shows you what's real and what's just noise. And little by little, it frees you from the weight you've been carrying. You don't have to fix everything in one day. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest. I'm not okay, but I want to be. I'm tired of running. I'm ready to face what I've buried. That's where healing starts, not in the pretending, not in the pushing, but in the permission you give yourself to feel, to cry, to grieve, to process, to breathe. You don't grow by skipping the pain. You grow by walking through it, because what's on the other side of that pain is peace. And once you taste that peace, the kind that doesn't come from distractions or fake smiles, but from real inner healing, you'll never go back to hiding again. So stop numbing, stop avoiding, stop running from the thing that's been chasing you for years. Turn around, face it, not to suffer, but to finally be free. 4. If you always need her, she'll never need you. You think needing her will make her stay, that if you just love her hard enough, show her how much you care, never miss a text, never say the wrong thing, she'll feel secure, she'll choose you, she'll never leave. You think that constantly proving you're a good man will somehow make her see what you see in her. But deep down, whether you want to admit it or not, there's fear driving your actions. Not love. Fear of losing her. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough without her. And that fear? She feels it. She feels the pressure you never say out loud. She hears the panic behind your just checking in text. She notices the way you slowly stop leading your own life just to orbit around hers. She sees it in how you overthink everything, how you walk on eggshells just to keep her happy, how you show up more for her than you ever have for yourself. But here's the truth. Needing her to feel complete doesn't make her feel wanted. It makes her feel responsible for your identity. And no matter how kind, loving, or patient she is, that's a weight no one wants to carry. Because the more you make her your everything, the more she starts to feel like you have nothing without her. And that doesn't feel like love. It feels like pressure. Like she's no longer a woman with freedom, but a woman with a job to hold your world together. When you always need her, she'll never need you, because you're not offering strength, you're offering need. And no woman wants to spend her life patching up the holes in a man's soul. She doesn't want to be your purpose. She wants to walk beside a man who already has one. Too many men confuse love with proving. They bend, they break, they overextend. They give and give and give, hoping it'll be enough to convince her to stay. But that's not love. That's insecurity dressed up as effort. You don't win her by always being there. You win her by always becoming more of yourself. You win her by having a mission, a vision, a life that isn't built on whether or not she texts back. You win her by showing that her presence adds to your life, but doesn't define it. That's what real masculine energy looks like. Not arrogance, not cold detachment, but unshakable peace. A quiet, grounded sense of self that doesn't collapse when someone else walks away. Because your foundation isn't built on their approval, it's built on your purpose. So if she leaves, you don't fall apart, you don't chase, you don't crumble. You keep building, you keep growing, you keep walking. And not because you're pretending to be strong, but because you finally are. That's when she looks at you differently. That's when the whole energy shifts. Not because you said something clever, but because you stopped needing her to stay in order for you to feel whole. When you stop needing her to complete you, you become the kind of man she can actually trust to stand beside her. Not because you're perfect, but because you're stable, because you've done the work, because you're not asking her to carry you, you're inviting her to build with you. So stop trying to be everything for her. Start being something real for yourself. That's the shift. That's the evolution. And when that happens, you stop asking, will she stay? And start asking, should I even let her? That's not ego. That's growth. That's what happens when a man finally chooses to lead himself before ever trying to lead someone else. 5. Being a good man without boundaries will destroy you. They told you to be a good man, to be polite, to be patient, to always be available, to sacrifice, to smile through the pain. They told you that if you gave enough, loved enough, forgave enough, tolerated enough, people would see your heart and honor it. That selflessness made you noble. That silence made you wise. That staying quiet while you suffered made you strong. But they forgot to tell you the truth. That being a good man without boundaries is one of the fastest ways to destroy yourself. It starts quietly. You say yes when your gut says no. You cancel your plans to fix someone else's mess. You let people cross your line just this once. You tell yourself it's okay, that being a good person means being uncomfortable sometimes. But slowly, something inside you begins to die. Not loudly, not all at once, but slowly. Your voice gets quieter. Your needs become background noise. Your mental peace becomes optional. Your joy becomes a sacrifice. And the saddest part, no one even notices. They don't notice when you're tired. They don't notice when you're hurting. They don't ask how you feel, because they're too busy assuming you're okay. Because you've trained them to believe you're always okay. You become the strong friend, the reliable son, the nice guy in the group, the helper, the listener, the fixer, and eventually, the empty one. You keep giving, thinking it makes you good. But what you don't realize is, without boundaries, your goodness becomes a tool people use. not out of evil, but out of habit. Because when you always say yes, people stop asking. When you never push back, people stop considering your feelings. When you never walk away, people stop earning your presence. They don't love you. They love what you do for them. And the moment you stop, the moment you pause, hesitate, say no, suddenly you're different, distant, selfish. But you're not selfish. You're exhausted. You're finally learning that love without limits isn't love, it's leakage. And when you leak your energy into everyone, you eventually run dry for yourself. You can still be kind, but that kindness should start with you. You can still love deeply, but your love shouldn't cost you your peace. Boundaries don't mean you care less. They mean you finally care about you too. You're allowed to say, I can't do this right now. I need space. That's not okay with me. I'm not responsible for your happiness. And yes, some people will walk away when you start doing that. But let them. Because the ones who leave when you start respecting yourself were never there for you. They were there for access. Access to your energy, access to your empathy, access to your availability. They never expected you to have a limit. They never imagined you'd stop bleeding on command. But that stops now. You're not here to be everyone's emotional dumpster. You're not here to fix what people won't fix in themselves. You're not here to be the man who burns out just so others can stay warm. You can be good and still say no. You can be generous and still protect your peace. You can be soft and still be powerful. You can love people and still love yourself first. So protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. And when someone asks why you've changed, why you're not so available anymore, why you've started choosing peace over pleasing, tell them this. I didn't change. I just stopped allowing the world to define what good means for me. Now I define it myself, with clarity, with courage, and with boundaries. Because you're not here to be used, you're here to be respected, and anyone who can't handle that was never really with you to begin with. 6. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. Not your mom, not your dad, not the woman who said she'd always be there, not the friends who told you they had your back, not your favorite speaker, not your favorite YouTube channel, not even life itself. You might be sitting there, silently hoping that someone will finally show up. Someone who understands what you've been through. Someone who will look at your pain and say, let me carry that for you. Someone who will heal what you've never spoken. Someone who will take your broken pieces and make you whole again. But that person isn't coming. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know that. The world doesn't owe you healing. No one else is responsible for your growth. Your life is in your hands. You can keep pointing fingers. You can blame your parents for not showing up how you needed. You can blame her for walking away. You can blame your job, your upbringing, your trauma, your past. And you know what? All of it might be true. Maybe you were abandoned. Maybe you were betrayed. Maybe life really did hit you harder than you ever deserved. But even if it did, it's still on you to get back up. Because no one is going to climb into your chest and fix what's broken. They can't. People can support you. They can love you. They can cheer for you. But they cannot save you. They can't make you get out of bed when your spirit wants to give up. They can't make you break that toxic pattern you've been hiding behind. They can't make you stop settling for less just because you're scared of being alone. They can't pull you out of the pit you've accepted as home. That's your job. Your healing is your responsibility. Your future is your responsibility. Your transformation, it's all on you. And yes, it's hard. It's hard to carry what no one sees. It's hard to stay silent about wounds that still bleed. It's hard to be the one who always has to rise. But here's what separates the man who breaks from the man who becomes unshakable. The man who breaks waits. The man who rises begins, not because he feels ready, but because he finally realizes he has no other choice. He stops wishing for someone to fix him and starts becoming someone he can be proud of. The pain doesn't go away by hiding. The storm doesn't pass because you close your eyes. You don't get stronger by avoiding the fire. You get stronger by walking through it and proving to yourself that it couldn't consume you. Every man you admire, every story you look up to, every legend, every warrior, every leader, they weren't saved, they saved themselves. They were tired, they were hurt, they were doubted, and they still chose to rise. Not for applause, not for validation, but because they got tired of waiting to be rescued. So if you're sitting there waiting for life to get easier, stop. If you're hoping someone will finally make it all make sense, stop. Because that person you're waiting for is already here. It's you, the man in the mirror, the one who has survived every storm so far, the one who still has a chance to change everything, not overnight, not without setbacks, but with honesty, effort, and brutal self-accountability. You don't need someone to come fix you. You need to stand up and say, I'm done being stuck. I'm done being passive. I'm done blaming everything around me. You are the one who changes your story. You are the one who builds the life you want. And the moment you take that truth seriously, everything begins to shift. No more waiting, no more excuses, no more hoping someone shows up. You are already here. Now act like it. 7. You are not the prize until you act like one. You want to be the man who turns heads, the man who walks into a room and shifts the energy without saying a word, the man who's respected, admired, pursued, not because he's loud, but because he's built something inside himself that cannot be ignored. But ask yourself honestly, are you living like that man yet? You want her to choose you. You want the world to recognize your worth. You want to be treated like a king. But how are you showing up? Not on your best day, but when no one's watching. Are you disciplined, or are you distracted? Are you building, or just waiting? Are you steady, or are you swaying every time life gets hard? You don't become the prize just because you say you are. You become the prize when you stop acting like a boy waiting to be picked and start acting like a man who's already claimed his own value. The truth is brutal but freeing. No one will take you seriously until you do. You don't earn respect by demanding it. You earn it by becoming someone whose presence commands it without a single word. That doesn't come from fancy words or designer clothes. It comes from your character, your consistency, your refusal to settle for mediocrity, no matter how easy it would be to just coast. Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. You can't beg your way into being chosen. You can't fake your way into being respected. You can't shortcut your way into becoming the man who has his life together. You want her to look at you like you're the one, then be the one. And not just for her, for you. You don't need to be rich to be valuable. You don't need to be perfect to be respected. But you do need to stand for something and live like you mean it. A high-value woman won't fall for your potential. She'll be drawn to your patterns, how you lead yourself, how you carry pain, how you respond to pressure, how deeply you believe in your own direction, with or without her approval. You think being the prize means she chooses you, but that's not it. Being the prize means you don't need to be chosen to feel complete. You've already chosen yourself. Because when you stop chasing validation and start becoming something real, you become undeniable, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you moved the quietest, with direction, vision, purpose. You don't need to compete for her attention. You don't need to prove anything to people who never saw you anyway. You compete with the man in the mirror. You build habits that make you proud of yourself even on your worst day. You sharpen your mind. You guard your peace. You show up even when no one claps. And little by little you start standing taller. Not because she loves you, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. So when she comes into your life, it's not about convincing her to stay. It's about checking if she even deserves the seat. Because when you live like a king, you don't chase queens, you build a kingdom. And then you see who's fit to walk beside you. The man who is the prize doesn't announce it. He lives it, in the way he speaks, walks, works, and carries pain without bitterness. So stop asking, why don't they see my worth? Start asking, am I living like someone who knows his worth every single day? That's the shift. That's the line in the sand. From potential to power. From hoping to becoming. You don't need to say you're the prize. When you finally act like it, they'll know. If even one of these lessons cut deep, if even one made you uncomfortable, hit a nerve, or stirred something you've been trying to avoid, then that's not weakness. That's proof that there's still something alive inside you. A voice, a spark, a part of you that refuses to settle, a part of you that knows you were meant for more. Most men ignore that feeling. They drown it in distractions. They silence it with comfort. They kill it with excuses. They stay stuck in the same cycle for years, waking up tired, chasing validation, running from pain, pretending they're okay until they're not, until the relationship fails, until the job becomes a prison, until their reflection becomes a stranger, until the life they built becomes a cage. And by then, it's not just their circumstances that are broken, it's them. But you're here, you're still listening, you're still breathing, which means you still have a choice. You may not be where you want to be. You may have made mistakes. You may feel behind, exhausted, lost. But hear this loud and clear. It's not too late. Not if you decide. Not if you're honest. Not if you're willing to stop waiting for permission and start creating change. You don't need more time. You need more intention. You don't need more motivation. You need more movement. No more waiting for a perfect moment. No more blaming your past. No more hoping someone shows up and gives you a new life. No one is coming, but you're already here, and that's all you need. This is your line in the sand, where the man you've been pretending to be ends, and the man you were born to become begins. The man who doesn't live for likes, but stands for something real. The man who doesn't chase, he builds. The man who doesn't fold under pressure, he rises through it. That man is inside you, buried under fear, buried under the lies you've told yourself, buried under other people's expectations. But now you dig him out, not with talk, not with dreams, with action. One choice at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time. So if you're done living small, if you're done being half present, half alive, half proud of who you are, if you're ready to stop explaining your potential and finally start walking in it, then drop the word rise in the comments. Not because it looks good, but because you're claiming it. Loud, real, unapologetic. This isn't a feel-good moment. This is a turning point. Because this space right here, it's not for the quitters, not for the victims, not for the men still chasing approval. This space is for builders, for warriors, for men who are ready to become, not just wish. Welcome to your new chapter. The old story ends now. Let's rise, let's build, and this time for real.